Welcome to NeoUnrealist. September 21st, 2018 is the day that the New York Times I think they proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that the deep state exists. Whether or not you believe Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein was serious or not when he spoke about secretly recording Donald Trump in that spring 2017 meeting that the Times reported on yesterday, you might already be asking yourself what the hell I'm talking about. Now, how does this prove the deep state exists if Rosenstein was just being sarcastic when he said that? I'll explain that soon, I promise. Now, in case you were under a rock yesterday, I'll bring you up to speed on the latest developments on this. The New York Times, Adam Goldman and Michael Schmidt, they wrote a story in the yesterday's edition, September 21st, titled, Rosenstein suggested secretly recording Trump and discussed the 25th Amendment. The 25th Amendment is a mechanism by which the cabinet and vice president can confer the presidency onto the vice president in the event that the current president is incapacitated. Now, many leftists have seized on this fever dream that somehow it can be used to remove a president when it really can't, absent true incapacitation. The president would literally have to be in a coma, or otherwise, physically unable to just do anything. Because if he's even semi-conscious and could speak at all, it would pretty much bring an end to any effort to oust him. You can't remove the chief executive because you believe his decisions are reckless or you think he's unstable. Not to mention the unlikely event of a majority of the members of a cabinet who are selected on the basis of loyalty and basically political reliability. You don't get that far in the party by being being unreliable. They're chosen for that as much as ability. So in that event, it would be very unlikely to turn a majority of those people against the president. And lastly, a vice president would have to act to usurp his president. I mean, all the vice president has to do to stop such a nefarious plot is just literally do nothing. I mean, the process can't go forward without him actively taking a role. So vice presidential inaction also stops the 25th Amendment from being invoked. In any event, it's neither here nor there for the purposes of this video. All that matters is that the New York Times says multiple sources, anonymous, there's those anonymous sources again, in the Department of Justice and FBI told him that on May 16th, 2017, at a secure facility, a SCIF in the Department of Justice, this was the week after President Trump fired former FBI Director James Comey, Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein was arguing with Andrew McCabe, at that time the acting director of the FBI. So they were arguing about the president in a room with with 5 other people. Lisa Page was one of the other people in the room. Another guy named Scott Schools, a career civil servant, he was named. Now, according to the Times, there are multiple sources, and amazingly, Andrew McCabe's own notes on the meeting. Yes, Andrew McCabe wrote this stuff down contemporaneously. That Rosenstein was supposed to have said, according to a senior Justice Department official, these were, Rosenstein's words. Well, what do you want me to do, Andy? Wear a wire? That official and another source in the same room told NBC News that they'd characterized the remark as sarcastic. Now, McCabe's post-meeting notes also say that Rosenstein raised the 25th Amendment, the constitutional mechanism that I just described. So this raises 2 possibilities, and only 2. Possibility 1. Rosenstein wasn't being sarcastic with McCabe and really meant it. He wanted to wear a wire and secretly record the President of the United States with the intent of removing him from power without an election. Well, if that's true, then the New York Times story proves the deep state just at face value. It's right there. Here you'd have the Deputy Attorney General of the United States engaged in illegal surveillance and recording of the President of the United States and be in a state of rebellion with that, that type of insubordination. Possibility 2. Rosenstein was so offended or put off by Andrew McCabe's argument that Rosenstein was not going after President Trump hard enough, investigatively, because that's what they were arguing about. Apparently, McCabe was dissatisfied with Rosenstein going not going hard enough after Trump. Rosenstein, if let's say he took umbrage and he replied in a sarcastic manner, rather than meaning it seriously, "Well, what do you want me to do, Andy? Wear a wire?" Clearly, Andrew McCabe was pushing to go after Trump, and just as in the first instance, what you have essentially, whether you believe possibility 1 or possibility 2, is 7 high government officials, law enforcement to boot, people that could put you in jail, and get subpoenas and access your, top secret records, with people with varying levels of commitment, having an unironic discussion about secretly recording the President of the United States engaging in an illegal scheme to remove him from power. The New York Times has shown that definitively now. Does it really matter in the end who was the more serious party, McCabe or Rosenstein? McCabe thought it was serious enough to record it in the notes he made about the meeting, in a memo that he wrote after the meeting. And according to NBC News, people who discussed the matter with McCabe say he remembers Rosenstein being serious about the wearing a wire thing. Rosenstein denies this publicly. He said in a written statement, "The New York Times story is inaccurate and factually incorrect." Well, that's a non-denial denial. That's just a mere statement about some facts may be wrong, or a story may not be entirely accurate. That doesn't address directly whether or not he said wear a wire or brought up the 25th Amendment. He said that there is no basis for members of the cabinet to use the 25th Amendment to remove President Trump from office. And when people pointed out that that was a present tense denial, not a past tense denial, because this happened back in May 2017, he issued a second statement to clarify, saying, "I never pursued or authorized recording the president, and any suggestion that I have ever advocated for the removal of the president is absolutely false." Let's bottom line this. Like I said before, 7 people in the room. McCabe recorded in his notes Rosenstein talking about wearing a wire to get the president, and that he was talking about the 25th Amendment. 2 other people in the room, Lisa Page and an unnamed person, say that they took the wear a wire statement as sarcasm or a joke. Others in the room, and those who've talked with others in the room, say that the wearing a wire thing was serious, which you have to lend some credence to, because think about it. If it was just a joke, why would Rosenstein be suggesting that he could wire up multiple people going to interview with Trump about the vacant FBI director job? I mean, it sounds like he's talking about possibilities there. Why then would they be discussing which cabinet officials that they could potentially recruit into the scheme, like then Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kelly? The discussion was being had in that room. That is beyond question. So more than one high government official gathered in that secure room having that unironic discussion about subverting and removing the president of the United States. Deep state confirmed. My money is on Andrew McCabe being the guy who took this to the New York Times. You already know that he's a source. I'm thinking that they have his notes. He's known to be a source. I think he took this to them. When Trump announced that he wants to declassify the Page FISA warrant applications, the Bruce Orr, Chris Steele 302 reports, and the texts and emails of communications between Strzok-Page, Comey, the whole FBI DOJ cabal, that I think McCabe panicked. He's already been referred for prosecution. He's facing potentially a grand jury. And guess who was in charge of the decision to go after McCabe or not? You guessed it, Rod Rosenstein. This could be a case of Rosenstein looking to take some. McCabe looking to take some heat off himself by throwing Rosenstein under the bus, a preemptive strike. He can point to him and say, he's the one you want, not little old me. Remember the time frame that we're talking about and what the situation was then. This meeting happened on May 16th, 2017, exactly 1 week to the day after that newest batch of Peter Strzok Lisa Page texts showed that on May 9th, Strzok and Page had the following exchange. Strzok texted to Page, "We need to open the case we've been waiting on now while Andy is acting." And Page replied to Strzok, "We need to lock in," and the name here is redacted, "in a formal, chargeable way, soon." Andy is, of course, Andrew McCabe. That week, Strzok and Page were looking to act while their co-conspirator, Andrew McCabe, was temporarily acting director of the FBI, and he had the power to sign off on anything they wanted. You see, they had to get the charges on someone, or this was going nowhere. Recall, Lisa Page testified in a deposition before the House Judiciary and Oversight Committees this July that at the time Mueller was appointed special counsel, the FBI had, after 9 months investigating, no evidence of collusion between anyone in the Trump campaign and the Russian government. Strzok and Page were keenly aware that they had a brief window of time in which to take advantage of their friend and ally, Andrew McCabe, basically running the FBI to do something they could not get approved before. When the House committees asked Strzok and Page who the person is they were looking at to charge in that redacted text that they both declined to answer, and Peter Strzok actually said, to get into that would relate to ongoing investigations, which, consistent with the department's policy on ongoing investigations and based on the special counsel's equities, I'm not authorized to discuss ongoing investigations. That indicates clearly that it's someone within the context of the Mueller investigation and therefore related to the Trump campaign. Once again, solid evidence of a cabal of deep state operatives conspiring to undermine the president using the temporary promotion of one of their own, Andrew McCabe, to acting FBI director. Andrew McCabe, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Bruce Orr, Bill Priestap, Andrew Weissman, before she got fired for insubordination, Sally Yates, Rod Rosenstein, who signed up for the 4th Carter Page FISA warrant application, despite the requirement that new evidence had to be uncovered within the 90-day window of the previous application, which we know wasn't the case if, as Lisa Page testified, there was no evidence of collusion found when Mueller was appointed special counsel. There's your deep state, like rats fleeing a sinking ship, starting to turn on each other now that, they know eventually the FISA applications for surveillance of Carter Page, sooner or later, those are going to be unredacted. The Bruce Orr 302s of his meetings with the dirty dossier peddler Chris Steele, and the release of all the text and email communications without redaction between Orr, Strzok, Page, Comey, and McCabe. You ask me, this New York Times bombshell on Rod Rosenstein was just the first move to try to mitigate the upcoming damage of those declassifications, and it's no coincidence that the one who went to the New York Times and told on somebody in this conspiracy against the president was Andrew McCabe, the guy referred for criminal prosecution. That's all for this New Unrealist. Like the video, comment, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell to keep up with the new content. Links for Patreon and PayPal are below for those of you who are able and inclined to support the channel more directly, and most of all, thank you for watching.